Welcome, everybody. I'm Jeff Reinholtz. I'm your host today with MSP Insights. I'm so very lucky to be joined today by Matt Tucker, CEO of Pegasus Technologies. Matt, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having us, Jeff.
So, Matt, I've had a little bit of an opportunity leading up to today's interview, and I was really excited to spend a little bit of time learning more about your journey. I think one of the biggest things, as I was perusing your website and really digging into your story is, phase one, the accolades, the awards that you've won throughout the years, being a leader in the MSP space, being recognized for what you do and your commitment to technology, your commitment to your community, the clients that you're serving every single day. But one of the things that I thought was really fascinating, and it jumped out at me, was exploring how you look to really match your technical team with your clients and asking your prospects and clients to take a time out and share a little bit about their personality. Will you share a little bit of insight, what drove you to really start with the people before technology?
Yeah, so it's great. So you're referring to the Match IT. Good. That's a great topic to start with. About 2011, I think it was, we had experienced quite a bit of growth in our company, and we had a hiring frenzy. And when you hire a lot of people really fast, sometimes you get into challenges where people don't quite get along or know how to communicate properly. And so you kind of step back and look at that. So what we did is we actually hired somebody to come in and do a little internal seminar with the staff and talked about how do we get along as people? How do we get to trust each other, get to know each other? And one of the exercises was something along the lines of like a DISC score, right? Where they do a personality traits and they have you fill out all of these questions and they put you on a grid. And as the individual who was going through and presenting to us started talking, I just kind of started to zone out and get into this mindset of, wait a minute, if we can figure out the personalities of our employees, we can figure out a way to figure out the personalities of our customers' employees. And if we can figure out a way to understand where our employees best match our customers' employees when it comes to personality, we've just given a great chance and a great opportunity of success for a relationship. And that's what you're after, right? The relationship. Because when you establish a relationship in anything, any business or in real world in our personal lives, you can then start to develop the trust. And as a business owner and as anybody in business, you know that when you've got a client that can trust you, you can get through just about anything. So what we did is we came up with our own kind of a scoring system where we basically every employee before they're hired at Pegasus gets a rating. And we then take that rating and do a little bit of magic to come up with their likes and dislikes. And then that helps us also hire. Not only are they technical, but they're going to fit well into this need we have for these certain subsets of clients. We reverse engineered that a little bit to figure out a way to evaluate our clients as a whole, individually as a client, but the employees as a whole. How do they celebrate success? How they celebrate a big win? How do they deal with loss? How do they reward individuals? And we come up with the likes and dislikes. And a good example at the end of the day is if we have an account manager that likes to party a little bit hard on the weekends, and Monday morning comes around and he's a little hurt, we got to make sure he's managing the right account at 9 o'clock in the morning when he walks in there and has the conversation. Or the flip side, maybe the owner of the business we're supporting enjoys a beverage around noon during the meeting with his feet on the table. You have to have the right personality to be able to have those conversations and not either be offended or trip over yourself. So through Match IT, that's exactly what we do. We evaluate both our staff and our clients, and we build a personalized team for them. Starts with the account manager. They get a senior level engineer that's matched to them, and then 3 field technicians we call tier 2. And it's been since 2011 we launched it, and it's still going strong, and everybody does focus in on that, and it gets a lot of praise.
I love it. I absolutely love the strategy. For me, just reading through it, I think the biggest thing right off the bat is I said, this makes so much common sense, right? Start to find the alignment with the people, and then the rest becomes so unbelievably natural. The relationship just seems to spawn and build. So taking a look at the beginning of your statement, you hit on a really interesting point. You talked about rapid growth. And I think that this is something that so many entrepreneurs run into, where all of a sudden we obsess on being able to not only have a business, but in that next phase, have this growth model, right? Where all of a sudden now we've got a brand, we've got a team, and now all of a sudden people want to consume what we can put out there because we are changing people's lives. I truly believe that when the MSP can be aligned with the right prospects and the right clients, magic does happen. Talk to me a little bit about this rapid growth. What did you learn from it? Obviously, Match IT was one of these aha moments that happened for you, but what else did you learn about your company as you went through this rapid growth?
Wow, lots. We're going back almost 10 years now. So I guess the one thing that once the rapid growth started to level out a little bit and we were able to reflect upon it, one of the things that came out of it was we don't want to have rapid growth again for the sake of rapid growth, if that can make sense. There was a lot of pain in rapid growth. It was early on and we were just grabbing everything that came our way. And, we didn't have the personas and the ideal client quite drafted out as to what we were after. So we were able to look back and say, okay, we need to control this a little bit more, set the right expectations with the clients, set the right expectations with our staff, and really zone in on what is Pegasus' ideal client and stick to it. As a business owner and previous sales in my life, it's hard to say, nope, sorry, we're not interested in selling that to you or bringing you on board. But we had to, and the reason we had to is it was too much of it was at the risk of the staff's health and well-being, and then also the ability to support our clients properly and keep our brand intact. So I think that is probably one of the biggest learning experiences I had, is know when it's okay to say no, and really focus in on the client that fits what we have and what we're trying to accomplish, and then add the Match IT in, and we knock the barriers down, and have a client for life ultimately.
So it's interesting to hear you talk about the persona and really being able to identify the ideal client. What do you think was your aha moment in the business that said, what, I do need to take this team in a new direction where we do slow down, know the persona, and we can truly outline who is the ideal client for Pegasus? What was that moment for you?
Good question. I've had a lot of them throughout the life. In fact, I had one last Friday when Kaseya had its entertainment. I think it's still going to go back into that growth time when a lot was learned. When we started in 2003, we were focused a lot on security, enterprise level security. We were very small, very nimble. I had my responsibilities, two other people had their responsibilities, and we just chugged along, but it didn't have a great path for success. So in 2006, when we changed to the managed services provider, I became operations. I became scheduling. I became sales. I became, CEO before we were even big enough to say that we need a CEO. The only thing I really didn't do was the back end of the money management, because I had a partner who was managing all of that for us. My aha moment was when I realized that this isn't sustainable and it's going to end up collapsing underneath of me if I try to do this. I'm burning up. I'm working 80, 90 hours a week, probably showing some stress points to the staff, and probably ultimately not making the right decisions for everybody. So it was about 2013 when I had the aha moment where I said, I need to build a leadership team inside of Pegasus. So I named operations manager, I named technical services manager, I named the internal IT manager, call him a CTO if you'd like. And I built this team of 4 and started to leverage them, start to build them, start to develop them, so that the ultimate goal is one day I can actually step back as a true CEO and look beyond the day-to-day operations. And the best thing about it is we are there today. I have 4 fantastic individuals that run this company for me. I'm here to support them. I'm here to help their growth. They're fairly young, most of them, so they're learning as they go. And it's been a real great run and a great adventure, and they've earned everything that they have. So I think that was really it, to realize that I'm not going to be able to grow the company to where my aspirations were if I don't start to bring in this type of help, and that's what I've done.
It's refreshing to hear you have that self-awareness to best understand what you needed to do, not only for yourself, but as well for the organization, to bring in these subject matter experts within your leadership team. So thinking about building that alignment, having your leadership team in place, and thinking about now you truly being able to step in as a CEO and, dare I say, be a visionary in your business and in your industry, based on where you truly, I think, I will say you are in the business, right? Now you're still as a part of the business, but really it's thinking about becoming a leader and understanding where the business is today and where we see it going. How do you see yourself as a CEO and being this visionary leader and really beginning to rethink how the MSP and IT once was served? But you hit on a great topic, right? We're all swimming in the Kaseya realities right today, right? It's one of the biggest conversations I have today with small to medium-sized businesses of saying there is a reality that you will be associated to a cybersecurity threat and or attack. It's just a matter of time. It's more importantly how you're being proactive in who you're working. But how do you see yourself stepping in as this visionary role and how it's impacting your team today as you have taken this step back from being so integrated in the day-to-days? How do you think that's impacting you and your clients?
Well, I mean, for one, I think it's been very successful for our clients. The having me step back and having a single funnel for decisions when there's so much going on in the world of technology is, again, as back to the not sustainable. So, by encouraging the leadership team to communicate and work together, I've got the operations working with the technical services team to make sure that we're delivering the right products. And where my role is in this is, I'm here for support first and foremost internally. I do dive back into the operations when I'm pulled in. If projects get heavy, then I'm right there with them. Yeah. With this whole security scare that we're all going through over the last week and a half. I mean, my job, they came to me and said, this is where we need you to step in, and we need you to have one-on-ones with all of the client base and tell them, keep them up to date as to what's going on. So I had daily emails that went out with the updates. I have had about 50% of my clients now are one-on-one calls. I talk about, what Pegasus has done in the past to protect ourselves for this attack. What's our posture now once we know what this attack looks like, and what changes have we made to prevent, or at least help prevent in the future. And in turn, also they get a one-on-one with me, the CEO, and it's always a different approach when I get to reconnect back with the clients, because it brings a different vision. It's not the day-to-day piece. It's that, again, CIO, CEO type play. Where are you going to be, Mr. Client, in the future? What risks do you have at this time? And right now I'm right in the throes of working through every single client that we manage and doing a full security stack review and recommendation for them. So that's where I am today. It's a big question. I don't know if I have all the answers for it, but they've given me the ability to step back, look at things holistically, big picture, overall, and down the road. When you're working in the business all day, every day, we all know you get your blinders on, you get your head down, and you just grind. And I'm very fortunate that they've given me this ability.
The piece I find to be really refreshing, Matt, on how you're approaching the business is you are available. Yeah. That's one of the things I think a lot of people, when they do get a CEO title, that they leave it up to their leadership team as direct points of contact. So to me, again, I find it unbelievably refreshing to hear that you're having one-on-ones, that you're getting in front of a major topic like what we're seeing with Kaseya, and actually demonstrating to the rest of the organization, it's not just about people on the team communicating the message, but you setting the example.
Yeah, I mean, if I could give any recommendation to any young or old CEO or somebody that's aspiring to be a CEO level is, don't forget the people that helped get you here and stay in front of them. I continue. I have calls. I have 2 calls annually with our clients already. I do a status check at the first of every year, and I go through a subset of questions about where they are, what challenges they're facing, and it really helps me align our business with our clients as a whole. I come out with information every single time, and we're thinking about maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that, maybe we should outsource our help desk. These are all things that we run through our minds on an annual basis. by having those conversations directly with the owners and management of all of our clients, they help feed me where I need to bend the company to continue to successfully support them. And nothing was more evident than the COVID bit, right? I mean, I've been in business since I was 17 years of age. This is my fourth actual business. So, they say serial entrepreneur. I think that's all. I'm just kind of crazy, I think. But I'll have you know that if I try it again a fifth time, my wife's gone. She's just going to be done with this one. But the COVID thing, I remember it very vividly. I was getting on a plane to go to a conference in San Antonio, and there was this chatter. It was late February. There was this chatter about some kind of virus in China, and we're all like, "Oh, it's the flu," right? And shortly before the flight, San Antonio had its first case, and we're all like, I go to the airport. There's like 1 or 2 masks. 3 hours, 4 hours later, I'm landing in San Antonio. There's 7, 8 masks, 10 masks. Well, the conference was the weirdest conference I've ever been to, because I didn't spend any time paying attention to the conference topics. I sat there, but I immediately went into CEO mode, I guess. I started to think about, how do we protect our clients? How do I protect my staff? How do I not lay anybody off if this is real? Because it is starting to become evident that this is real and this is going to hurt. So I started to develop a business plan to come back and attack this as soon as I landed. And I set up calls with every single one of my clients. And I put together a kind of a threat matrix as to how will each of my clients survive a year-long pandemic. And through a set of questions, understanding what their industry is, what their financial status is, and what they're telling me their biggest concerns are, I basically rated all of our clients from a very low risk of failure to a very high risk of going out of business. And what we did is we then worked with all of our vendors to look for, look for some considerations to help alleviate some of the service payments, so that I could in turn take that and pump it back into my clients that were in that high risk category. So we had about 15 clients that we carried for 5 months at no charge to them, because we knew that if we were sending an invoice out to them, they cannot pay it, and we're basically saying we don't care. And back to the Match IT and back to our mission statement, everything about Pegasus. One thing we do is we care. I mean, we all do technology. We all can load up a server. We can all spin you up in the cloud, right? We can all help desk. But where we want to separate ourselves out is that we're all humans. We're all in business together, and we need each other. And we were successful. We didn't lose a single client. Not a single client went out of business. We didn't lay anybody off. The PPP was one of those things where I'm not sure why we're getting it, but it's welcome. But it was definitely something that was close to home and was a mission of mine through 2020. And again, back to the leadership team. Without them, I never could have had the time to think this even through, let alone implement it.
I think it's a very refreshing comment to hear that you're willing to take a step back for 5 months with a group of your clients to say, right now, I understand it, right? There's not going to be an invoice. There's not going to be a compounding interest associated with the services I can give you. I've always been fascinated in this game where we step out as a business owner and say, I have something to sell you, and this is going to be about a partnership. And it's always that moment where it's easy to say that until, I think the old Mike Tyson statement is, everyone's tough till you get punched in the mouth.
Right.
And to that point, COVID did a really good job of punching everybody in the mouth, and really where a lot of businesses were put in check, especially in the MSP space, was how are you going to react? Are you going to be strategic? Are you going to be able to develop and demonstrate compassion for your clients? Have a moment to go, what do we need to do to keep you up, keep your business going, where we don't see another casualty of COVID? And it's interesting when you hit on the conversation of, what was that moment when we all heard about COVID? Immediately, all of our brains go back to that conversation. Or, I remember texting a couple of my buddies in the space saying, "Oh, we'll be back in worst case in a month, right? What's a month? They can't keep us shut down for any longer than a month." 18 months later, still in the home office. But to your point, I think we all understand too, every good rainstorm eventually runs out of rain. And we're really seeing it, I think, hopefully coming to an end. And to what you've done, I think you've probably built some relationships for life because you've led with empathy at the human level in which you started with it. It wasn't about, hey, to me, you're worth $5,000 a month. And if you can't give me $5,000 a month, happy trails, right?
Right.
So I love the direction you've taken with that, Matt. So one of the points that you hit on too is you talked a little bit about potentially being a serial entrepreneur. Four swings at the at different hats in the entrepreneurial lens, and the conversation of, I would probably say, big plenty of kudos needs to go to your wife.
Yeah.
Going on this journey with you.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Well, I have to say that I owe a lot of it to my father, because I was not very fortunate, but I will say very fortunate to grow up with not a lot of things accessible to us from a financial standpoint. We struggled as a family when I was a child, and but my father hustled. He made it work, right? He allowed me to still have the life I wanted. In fact, somehow he figured out how to pay for me to start playing hockey at a young age, which is nearly impossible for anybody in the 80s to afford to do that. But I will say that my dad, no matter what it was, and maybe it wasn't glamorous, but he got it done. So I think that's where it started. And then I'm going to say I took that same philosophy and same passion towards sports. I've always been very involved in sports. In fact, I still play hockey today, 4 days a week. Slight injury has me off, but yeah, I'm still playing hockey. And there's this drive that's deep down inside to be successful. And it's not about winning. It's about being successful, and success is hard to measure because a lot of people say, oh, how much money do you have? Or what kind of car do you drive? Or how many employees do you have? Success for me is I wake up every day and can't wait to go to work. I mean, I'm successful. That's it. I love this team. A lot of people look at the size of our company and say, wow, you have a leadership of 4 and you're only 27 employees. What are you doing? Well, I want them to be successful too. They make me successful, and that at the end of the day is how I determine what success is. The entrepreneurship is a weird path. Probably just go ahead and share it with you now because it'll get out one way or the other. It was about, I think it was 1989. I had convinced my mother to let me get a snake. Maybe it was 88. I convinced my mother to let me get a pet snake. She's terrified of them. She let me get a pet snake. Well, just like I do with everything, I dove full in, right? I learned everything about reptiles, snakes, how you do this. And then lo and behold, I find out that there's this expo going on in Florida, which is like the first national expo for reptiles in the United States. Convinced her to let me drive to Miami. And our goal was to camp out in the Everglades before the show. Well, being dumb young kid is here I am preparing to camp out in the Everglades in August. It lasted all of about 4 minutes. We got out of the car, we started to pull stuff out of the car, and the mosquitoes just took over from there. Rolled everything back up and decided, let's go to the hotel where the conference is going to be. We'll be a couple days early, so be it. Well, if everybody's been that's going to listen to this has been to a conference, a lot of people show up at the bar the day or the night before the conference, all the vendors. So we had little business cards made up, reptiles galore and more. And my buddy and I decided we would go down to the bar and get a little Coca-Cola in a glass and start to mingle. So we started to mingle and met some pretty interesting characters. Through that relationship, we met breeders, importers of every exotic animal in the entire world. And make the story short, I came home and I started importing and breeding reptiles to sell to hobbyists and pet stores. And that was my very first business. As a junior in high school, I was bringing in probably more profit than my stepdad was. So that was me learning how to become an entrepreneur and hustling it. I turned that into another business quickly after that. College didn't work out for me. Turned out into another business where I developed my first monthly reoccurring revenue plan. And I would set up and maintain aquariums in doctors' offices and businesses. They'd pay me monthly. I'd come in, clean it, put fish in. It was a great little gig there. but and that lasted for a little bit. And then my third business was actually got to the pinnacle, which was 4 pet stores throughout the area. Ran those for about 5 or 6 years. Decided to get out of that industry because it was, Walmarts and PetSmarts were on the way and going to certainly hurt us. And that put me into, I guess, probably my first aha moment. What do I do now? I don't have an education. It's rapidly becoming 2020. The .com boom's happening around me.
Yep.
After some soul searching, I realized that the next greatest thing is probably this thing called technology, and it's going to take off. So fought my way into a help desk, working night shift, became operations manager, met a few smart people, and created Pegasus Technologies.
Fascinating story. I love to hear, once again, humility and hunger is undefeated. When you've got a vision, and I love the gift of the hustle. That's one thing I talk to my kids about all the time, about how great it is to be hungry. And I think that it's also one of these pieces that sometimes when people are given a lot, they've never had the gift of hunger, where you've looked at it and you've gone without, and you've had the gift of struggle. And you've really had to challenge your brain to go, how can I solve this problem right now for myself? I'm not going to leave it up to someone else. This is about me. This is about my moment. And I don't like where I am, and I'm going to solve the problem, right? I'm not waiting for someone else to do it. I'm going to do it for myself. Right. And I think it's refreshing, Matt, to hear about how you've had these aha moments, even in the younger version of yourself, where you're sitting here going, man, I think there's maybe an easier way. There's a better way for me on how I see my future and what you've built for yourself. And I completely get your topic when you hit about youth hockey, because I'm living it right now with a 9-year-old who is in travel hockey. So I know exactly what you're talking about when you get into that narrative. So I'd love to learn a little bit more, Matt, and how you've really spent a lot of time with your team, building out personas, understanding your clients, aligning your technical team with these personas. How have you and your team leveraged Datto technologies to help you best serve these clients that you've spent so much time architecting these great relationships? How are you doing that today?
Well, so I think there's 2 answers to that, right? There's the obvious one, which is the technology side. We started with the Autotask side of the business, and I'll say that leveraging the PSA portion really helped drive that growth into the 2011 timeframe. We were probably on Excel documents where we would fill them out and email them in to try to cover costs or try to track costs and timesheets and so on. So opening my eyes to that when somebody, I reached out, I said, hey, I knew a guy in the space. I said, how are you tracking all of this? What are you doing? And he mentioned, the Autotask, which is now Datto. So when I saw it, I'm like, where has this been my whole life? And I went full blown. I mean, we today, I would say, used 85 to 90% of what's inside the PSA. A lot of people tiptoe into it and don't quite get to that, but we live it, we breathe it, and it's everything. It's the control center. Can't go without it. Beyond that, I mean, then you start to leverage in the Datto backups, the SaaS cloud product, and then the more recent, some of the hardware that's come into play. It gives us, using a centralized vendor, it sometimes has its negatives, but in the Datto case, it certainly has helped us streamline a lot of our processes and keep us efficient there. Then there's the other side, which I'll maybe say it's the social or learning aspect. I'm big fan of going to the conferences, all conferences. I like to try to absorb as many conferences as possible, and it's not just because I can go and, drink at the bar and party it up with everybody. That's there. We do it. It's, some people probably will be laughing at this video on some of the antics that have happened. However, the exposure to ideas, and more importantly, my peers, that Datto puts together when we get together on these events is priceless. It's just absolutely priceless for what I've used to how I've leveraged it to build the business. I will get around any round table I possibly can to sit down and share pick people's brain. It's all about the both sides. You got to be willing to share if you're willing to take. So the side that Dado has presented to give me the opportunity to be exposed to so many new people from so many places around the world now, I would say is equally as important as the technology side itself.
I think that goes right back to what you hit on at the very beginning, Matt, where you talked about your willingness to lean in and get some insight from another person in the MSP space, right? I think, again, one of the biggest topics I have over and over again when I get this opportunity to speak to CEOs is initially, I think a lot of CEOs find themselves sitting on an island where all of a sudden we live in a life as a CEO where you are consistently answering everyone else's questions all day long. Mm-hmm. But very rarely do we get the opportunity to go, excuse me, I have a question. What's a piece of technology that I should be leveraging that could automate these things and reassign how we're trying to scale this business? And I think there's a better way that we can unify a service delivery model. So kudos to the methodology, because I think, again, it goes back to the old saying, all the boats do rise when we do engage in those types of moments. But to your point, it's that willingness to step in and go, hey, I would love to mentor. I'd love to give you some advice. I'd love to give you some direction. I can't wait. This is a great opportunity for me to say I can't wait to sit down with you in Seattle at DadoCon and have a bigger conversation, and would love to get a group of you guys together and dig in a little bit deeper on how thought leadership is driving the space today. But to your point that you just hit on, if you were to take a minute and you were going to look to give the younger version of Matt Tucker some advice, what are you telling Matt Tucker 25 years ago?
Eat your lima beans. Wow. Matt Tucker 25 years ago, man. Let's go a little bit less than 25 years ago. I guess, you know what? Actually, go back to the beginning, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in or what you think you want to be. And it's something I share with my children every day. Learn how to work well and communicate well with people. I mean, learn how to understand and build the relationships. I mean, you're going to hear it over and over again. I mean, the Match IT all the way through everything. It's all about the relationship. It's all about the sharing as much as it is the taking. It's all about the supporting, listening. That, and I think some of that's lost in today's world, especially as technology's taken over. We were just having a conversation a minute ago, but kids don't even know how to pick up a phone anymore, right? If they can't receive a snap, then you're not going to communicate with that individual. That's something that you have to make sure that you're paying attention to, and then as you develop those skills and you develop the comfort to communicate with people, then you start to become a leader, right? Because then people want to listen to you. Then people respect what you have to say because they know you're doing it for all the right reasons. Take that same approach and continue to push it through like I'm doing today. Get with your clients, have the conversations you've got, have the hard conversations with your clients. Don't hide from them. They'll respect you a lot more when you have the hard conversations. Certainly if you've shown all along that you're here to support them and they've built the trust with you. So I guess, there's a lot of things I would probably do differently as I grew up, but the one thing that I would definitely make sure is learn and appreciate the human being.
Amazing advice. Really, really amazing and thoughtful reflection on your journey. Thanks for sharing that today.
Thank you.
Matt, I want to thank you for joining me today on MSP Insights, and I look forward to seeing you at DadoCon. Thanks again.
Thanks so much for the opportunity, Jeff.